Hallo, ik ben der young Homesteader. Willkommen wieder in meinem Desender. In English, this simply means, hello, I'm the young homesteader, and welcome to my channel. The reason I chose to introduce this video in German is because, yes, along with Cherokee and various other nationalities, I do have a German heritage. Another reason is because today's video is going to be a tutorial of how to make a knitted house slipper. And because Germany has been noted as one of the top knitting countries of the world. Today I will be showing you how to make a size small shoe. However, you can also make a size medium and a size large. I'll be putting the pattern for all three sizes down in the description box below. By the way, an interesting fact is that the slipper I'll be making during the tutorial will be added to other pairs, which will be given to the local veterans home. Here's a personal yarn tip I wanted to share with all of you. When you purchase your yarn at the store, it comes in a skein. However, I like to ball up my yarn, which is how my mom always did it. And I like doing this by hand. I have used an automatic baller, but I don't like the shape that it forms because for me it is very awkward to use. I also enjoy the rhythm that comes by doing it by hand. One of the simple pleasures included in balling up your yarn. In order to ball your yarn, the first thing you need to do is find the end of your yarn. This will either come from the middle or from the outside. Mine's going to come from the outside. The first thing you do is take 2 fingers and lay your yarn across them. Then pinch with your thumb. That way it won't slide off. Start wrapping your yarn around the 2 fingers until you have as much as you want. Now at this step, I start going in between my fingers, like this. However, my mom does not. But that just makes our methods unique. When I'm satisfied with how much yarn I have there, I pull it off of my fingers and continue wrapping. In order to make my ball a circle, as I wrap, I twist the ball. That way I'm wrapping at different angles. So I wrap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 10 times. Then I turn my ball and do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Turn again and start over. And for those of you who do not want to end up chasing your yarn all over the place while you're attempting to ball it, like myself, it's a good idea to put it in some sort of bucket, basket, or container. As you work, it's quite satisfying to see your ball increase in size. However, it can be quite irritating when you drop your ball and lose your rhythm. Here we are, almost to the end. Yay! Ta-da! We are now ready to start our project. In order to begin this project, the first thing you need to do is gather your supplies. You will of course need your yarn. For this project you'll be using 2 balls, as well as a pair of size 10 knitting needles. You will also need a pair of scissors, a preferred size of crochet hook. I like using a G-hook, and either a large-eyed sewing needle or a plastic yarn needle. Once your supplies have been gathered, you're ready to begin. The first step is to make a slip knot. And for those of you who don't know how to make a slip knot, here's how to do it. Now, when you're ready to make your slip knot for this project, it's important to remember to leave a long tail, because you're going to be using that tail to sew the back of your shoe shut. I'll be showing you how to do that later on in the video. What you want to do is take the tail end of your yarn and lay it across 2 fingers, like this. Then wrap that tail end around your fingers to create a loop. Press down where the 2 pieces of yarn cross so it doesn't come apart. Then push your yarn through the back of your loop, creating a second loop, like this. Then hold on to the tail end of your yarn in your fingers and pull the original loop off the 2 fingers. Tug your loop to tighten your knot. Then all that's left to do is thread your needle through your loop and tug on the tail end of your yarn to tighten the stitch. Once you have your slip knot on your needle, you're ready to lay the foundation of your project. In order to do this, you have to cast on 29 stitches. To cast on a stitch, use your left hand to make a thumbs up sign. Then point your index finger straight out, leaving your 3 other fingers curled back and facing toward you. Now, take your working end of your yarn and grasp it in those 3 fingers which are pointing towards you. Wrap it around the back of your thumb and index finger. Now you're ready to begin using your needle. Take your needle in your right hand and place it under the yarn going around your thumb and over the yarn coming from around the back of your index finger. Go back under the first strand and simply pull your fingers out of the loop, then tighten against the stitch. You want to do this 27 more times because your slip knot made the first stitch and you just formed the second. So this will give you the needed 29 stitches. I'm on stitch 28. I wanted to give you guys one more example in slow motion so you can see what I'm doing. Remember, grasp it with your 3 fingers, then go around your thumb, around your index finger, and then under the first strand, over the second, back under, pull out, and tighten. Now you're ready to build upon the foundation you just laid. In order to do that, complete row 1 by knit stitching all the way across. To do a knit stitch, take your second needle in your right hand and push it through the bottom of the stitch on the needle that's in your left hand. Wrap your working yarn around the back of the right hand needle and pull it down through the stitch. Then simply slip the stitch off the left hand needle and pull to tighten. Your first knit stitch is now resting on your right hand needle. Do that all the way down and you'll have row 1 completed. So up through the bottom, around the needle, pull back through, slip off and tighten. Up, around, back through, slip off and tighten. Completing the row, we go up, around, back through, slip off, tighten. Up, around, pull back through, slip it off, and tighten. You've just completed row 1. Now you're ready to move on to row number 2. Here, you're going to be adding a new stitch called the purl stitch. To do row 2, you knit 9, which is the stitch you just did, then purl once. So remember, the knit stitch is up, around, pull through, slide off, and tighten. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now you're ready to do your purl stitch. In order to do a purl stitch, bring your yarn around the front of your needle like this. Then take your right hand needle and place it through the top of the stitch on your left hand needle. Wrap the yarn around and pull it back up through the top. Then simply slip it off the needle and tighten. Repeat this pattern of knit 9 and purl 1 all the way down. To the purl stitch, so remember, bring your yarn around, go down through the top of the stitch, wrap around, pull back through, making sure you have both strands of your yarn. slip off and tighten. Take a moment to show you how to count the ridges. When you lay your piece flat, you'll see these bumps. These are your ridges. Simply count the bumps and make sure you have 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. If you have 15 ridges, you're ready to move on to part 2 of your project. Again, we're going to be using the knit and purl stitches. This time, row 1 is going to be purl 1, knit 1, all the way across. So if you remember from earlier, your purl stitch is taking your right hand needle and placing it down through the top of your stitch. Wrap your yarn around your needle, pull it through, slip off, and tighten. Now you do a knit stitch, which is to go up from the bottom of the stitch, wrap around, pull through, slip off, and tighten. Do that all the way across. Purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1. Purl 1, bring your yarn around the front, place your needle down through the top, wrap around, pull through, slip off, and tighten. Knit stitch, up through the bottom, wrap around, pull back through, slip off, and tighten again. And there's row 1. Once you reach the end of row 1, you're ready to begin row 2, which, if you remember, is knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. So on this row, the knits first, so go up through the bottom, around the needle, pull through, slip off, and tighten. Next comes purl. So bring your yarn to the front of your needle, down through the top, around the needle, oops, pull through, slip off, and tighten. Knit, up through the bottom, around the needle, pull through, slip off, and tighten. And the purl is bring around the front, down through the top, around the needle, pull through, slip off, and tighten. Do this all the way across the row. There you have it, your first 2 rows done. Now you just need 10 more. Remember to alternate between rows 1 and 2 as you go. When we get that done, I'll meet you back here. Once you get that part done, you can easily tell that these look different from these stitches. Don't worry, you did nothing wrong. That's how it's supposed to look, simply because you're doing a different pattern of stitches. Now you're ready to move on to the next step, which is to form and sew your shoe. We'll begin by making the toe, and in order to do this, the first thing you have to do is cut the working end of your yarn, making sure to leave a pretty good length. Next, take your sewing needle or your plastic yarn needle, whichever you prefer, and thread it. Then, guide it through the stitches on your knitting needle. Once you've made it through all of your stitches, tug the yarn to begin pulling your project into a circle. You want to make sure to pull it nice and snug so this hole you're forming will pull itself closed, just like that. Once you have your yarn pulled snugly, fold your shoe over and prepare to stitch up the side. Now you're not going to go all the way up, and when you fold you can see where the 2 stitches, where one ends and the other begins. You're only going to sew that far up. So take your yarn and go through one side and into the other and pull. as you're going, be sure to get every single stitch. That way it'll stay together. And you remember where I said when we were gonna stop, where those 2 stitches came together? Well, we're there. So what we wanna do now is do 1 more stitch in the same hole. And come up through it, making it a knot. And just leave it. We'll come back and weave the ends in when we're ready. So we just formed the toe of our shoe. So now we're ready to close up the back. And we're going to be doing this using the tail that I had you leave at the beginning of the project. So you want to line your edges together and simply sew along the edges the same way you did over here. Now that we've reached the last stitch, we want to go through, come up through our loop, making a knot, pull it tight, do it one more time, pull it tight again, and now we're ready to weave in our ends. To do this, simply go in and out of your project, but be careful not to go all the way through. Do this to the rest of your ends and you'll be ready to move on to the next and final step. Here's what the shoe looks like at this stage, and I would try it on for you, but I do not wear small. So here it is. And I personally think it needs a little extra, both decor-wise and function-wise. Therefore, I'm going to be single crocheting 2 rounds along the top of the shoe. In order to do this, I'm only going to be using a single strand of yarn. First thing you need to do is attach your yarn to the shoe. In order to do this, insert your hook, then wrap your yarn around the hook and pull it back through. Slip it through the loop that was on your hook, and you have just done a slip stitch. Now you're ready to do your single crochet, and we're going to be doing this in every single stitch. So, insert your hook, wrap it around, pull your yarn back through, wrap around again, and go through 1 loop, then 2 loops. Next stitch, go in, pull through, wrap around, 1 loop, and 2 loops. Next hole. Keep stitching till you get all the way around, and I'll meet you on the other side. Here we are at the end, and if you notice, we left the front open. So now we need to chain 1, then flip our work and start back the other way. Remember to go into every stitch. So now we've made it back around again, and on this journey I counted 30 stitches for the size small shoe. And since we're back where we started, it's time to tie off and weave in. To do this, we're going to snip our yarn, wrap it around the hook, and pull it through our loop. Then we're going to make sure to pull it really tight and do a double knot with our beginning tail. Now you simply weave in as we've done before. Let's flip it right side out. Fluff it. And guess what? Now you're ready to move on to shoe number 2. So have fun making it, finishing it, wearing your shoes, or donating them. Also, please like and subscribe down below.